Hey, everybody, this is the Cowboy Johnny Mantell, and I'm with Danny G and my dear friend Fred Urban at Old School Wrestling, and this is about a chair shot to the head, and if you want one, this is the place to get one.
This is Curt Stallion. You're checking out the Chair Shot with Danny G and Mr. Old School. I don't give a fuck, dude, honestly.
It's a Chair Shot right now with Danny G and Mr. Old School. Mr. Old School, you doing all right over there?
Yeah, I'm wonderful.
It's like 400 degrees in this studio.
You know what's really ironic, man? The air conditioning man, he's been outside repairing the air conditioner for the past 2 years. I think we're getting worked.
Yeah, somebody needs to be fired for sure.
Time for our first guest on episode 2 of the Chair Shot. We have
Ring of Honor top prospect Curt Stallion on the phone line. Curt Stallion.
I got an applause. It's Curt the Lone Star Stallion first off, and I might be the reason why it's a little bit too hot in that studio right now, baby. Woo-hoo.
It's your career, man, I'm saying.
You're on fire.
I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. That too, but something's definitely burning.
We appreciate you for joining us on episode 2 of the Chair Shot, Mr. Curt Stallion. Now, tell us a little bit about your upbringing, because of course you're from the area, you're from the Midland, Odessa, Permian Basin area. Now tell us as far as, once again, your upbringing, as far as where you were trained and how you got your start in the business, man.
Well, good God almighty, I was living in Marshall, Texas, and I was doing nothing with my life, and one of my buddies, old Silverback Saucedo, some may have heard of him, may not have, it's his own fault. Anyways, he called me one day, and he was just like, hey, man, I found a wrestling school, and I was just like, no way. And I said, go to it and tell me if it's legit, and he showed up and told me it was legit, so I dropped everything and moved back to Odessa, and that's where I met Mr. Old School himself, and joined OSW, and from there it was history. I just started going to training all the time, fucking lived and breathed it, man. There was nothing else on my mind whatsoever except for professional wrestling and making something of myself with that, because I didn't see any other way in life going that good, and it's done exactly what I wanted it to.
Now, any backyard wrestling in your upbringing?
Oh, yeah, dude, of course. I mean, if you're a professional wrestler and you weren't a kid and didn't throw your buddies around in your backyard and get yelled at you by your parents, you didn't start out right.
Curt Stallion is a legend in Crane, Texas, actually.
The big city of Crane, Texas.
Everybody knows him in Crane, Texas.
I'm a deity.
And there might even be a few YouTube videos of that backyard wrestling we were referring to.
God damn it, we won't talk about that. Man.
I love you. Bang,
funny.
bang.
Most of the guys don't know the shooter, though, so they can't find it.
Yeah, but I'm sure we can get Silverback Salcedo to post the link on the Chair Shot Facebook page.
Motherfucker, get him to go back to training.
You are one of the top prospects of Ring of Honor. Now, you're currently on the road, right? Where are you calling us from this evening?
I'm in Austin, Texas, currently. I had a show here on Sunday. I was in California on Friday. Flew back to Austin on Saturday. And then, yeah, I'm just chilling out, waiting for the next gig.
Now, as far as the Ring of Honor, tell us how that's been going, that experience.
Oh, man, I moved up to St. Louis January 2015, and my first 30 days there, I had got to wrestle a dark match for Ring of Honor, 2 dark matches for Ring of Honor, and a dark match is a pre-show match, pretty much. And that in itself was a huge deal and very motivational for me, and I've done Ring of Honor since then, probably fucking 10 times, and that is also a big deal for somebody with my experience level, I guess, because there's guys that have been doing it for 10 plus years that haven't even done anything close to something that cool. But I don't know, man, I guess they liked something about me, because I mean, out of all the independent professional wrestlers out there, they chose 8, and I was one of those 8 for this year, and I don't know, that's humbling.
Yeah, but I told you all those sacrifices you made, being broke, starving, and everything else, just raising enough money to wrestle actually paid off. And Danny, I don't know if you know or not, but he's actually wrestled in Canada. He's had a chance to go to Mexico, so he's actually had a chance to travel from coast to coast and, in different countries. So that's a big honor, man.
That is, definitely. Congratulations.
Well, I appreciate that. A lot of the guys, I was watching the Cruiserweight Classic, for example, a few months back, and there was a dude preaching about, I lived in my car, I did this and this, and I was just like, well, fuck, you know how many fucking wrestlers have done that? And I think talking about that kind of shit is like a cheap pop. You know what I mean? I don't try to put that part over, but if somebody else wants to, hell yeah, by all means.
Well, I know where you came from, and I know what you've sacrificed, so I know you've worked hard for it. So
Humble beginnings, brother.
That's right. Never forget where you came from.
No, not at all. I mean, shit, dude, I live and breathe this. Like, I do my best to be respectful. You know, I'm fucking just, my personality in itself is cocky piece of shit, but I really try hard. Like, I mean, a lot of the guys know, like, when I'm on the road and stuff, I'm fucking just myself. But, like, if I'm in a locker room around guys that I need to be fucking respectful in front of, I'm respectful, and I keep my mouth shut and do what I'm told pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, are you still active on the OSW roster?
Well, I'm the West Texas champion, baby. Don't get me started.
I just needed to clarify that for all the people listening. Episode 2 of the Chair Shot with Danny G and Mr. Old School. Now, we want you to hold tight with us, Curt Stallion. We're going to go over some of the highlights. Now, Mr. Old School, of course, speaking of OSW, big congratulations going out to our OSW alumni, Mickie James, right, for making her return to the SmackDown brand.
Yeah, she actually signed another contract with them and debuted Tuesday night. So, she was on NXT a couple weeks ago, but, I mean, she actually debuted on SmackDown last night, which is a big honor. So congratulations to her after being gone for 7 years. And we'd also like to congratulate Ring of Honor superstar Keith Lee and another OSW alumni, the Texas Lion, Houston Carson. For
Ring of Honor superstar Keith Lee is now Evolve superstar.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to, so shut it up. No, they both signed a deal with Evolve to appear there, which is a stepping stone to WWE. We're working with them a lot to help enhance talent, and
they have a working relationship, right?
Yeah, they do. So for them guys to be able to do that is a big step for Texas wrestling and those two gentlemen in general. So congratulations to them.
Also, I noticed that on NXT, Tajiri, he injured the right knee, so we wish him a full, speedy recovery as well.
Yeah, and then Darren Young had an arm injury the other night, so, you know, if you can't work, you can't eat. So the wrestling business is booming. Independent wrestling is booming, and so expect to see more of it, even on the WWE network in the immediate future, as they're working with Evolve and some other promotions. So you'll get even more of a variety.
Yeah, definitely, and we especially look forward to the return of the hometown hero, Curt Stallion, over here to the Permian Basin. Now, what's next? What's next for you, man? Where are you traveling to next?
Are we doing anything on the 28th, Fred?
We have Road Warrior Animal at the Jackalopes. I mean, you're more than welcome to come in and kick ass and take names if you want, if you're in town. Yeah, but I mean,
I had that penciled in, so I mean,
yeah. If you're in town, come on.
All right. Well, there you go, brother. And then after that, I'll be February 4th, right, with you again, Fred?
Yes, sir. Wrestle Bowl 2017 at the Hector County Coliseum with Carlito.
And weekend after that, Pro Wrestling Freedom in Indianapolis, and then day after that would be Ring of Honor in Pittsburgh. Day after that, Ring of Honor in Columbus. And then I don't remember the rest.
We need a road story, because that's what this is about, is enjoying things and pop culture. We know you're a huge anime fan and stuff like that, but what kind of road story do you got that you could entertain the fans with that isn't too dirty but still funny?
It could be dirty, off the top of the head. Craziest road story. Let's go.
I actually have a memo in my fucking phone, a memo pad with podcast topics, and there's about 100 different things that I wrote down in there for a funny story at any time like this. Let's see.
Mine is chasing Guadalupe Saint down a dirt road, butt naked in Merkel, Texas. You know, that one was a good one. So I'll tell you about that offline, Danny.
I'll talk to you about that offline. Okay. Let's see. There's a whole bunch of these. Wow. I mean, wrestling women, that's always a good topic. I won't talk about that one. There was one time that I wrestled in Chicago, and it's not necessarily a road story, but it's a show story, and this dude socked me in the mouth so hard that it broke my back tooth, and then I looked at the crowd, and I was just like just flabbergasted. So I turned around, and instead of hitting him back, I gave him the hardest headbutt I possibly could, and pretty much almost knocked him out. And I only bring that up because my tooth finally finished cracking the rest of the way, and now it's just a root back there, and it really hurts. So thank you, Mr. Name, who I will not say because you don't deserve the recognition.
All right, well, we're gonna have to do a part 2 and get you back on here in a couple of weeks. Will you be available for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have plenty of better stories that are more thought out. And
yeah, you need to come to class prepared, damn it. I know school wasn't a strong point.
And bitch, I graduated.
Bitch, I got my GED.
We could mention the ice machine.
Oh, man, I took a shit in the ice machine when I was in high school, Danny G. You know how
What high school did you go to? Crane High?
In high school. And it's funny because when I wrestled in Kermit, Texas, the fucking principal or superintendent, whoever he was, walked up to me and was like, hey, man, so I heard you're the one that, pooped in the ice machine. And my jaw just dropped. Like, what?
So, see, I told you he was a legend in Crane, Texas.
You're checking out the Chair Shot right now with Danny G and Mr. Old School. Now, moving forward with our next guest, Mr. Old School, he happens to actually be one of your close personal friends, right?
Yes, sir. I have Mr. Johnny Mantell, the president of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls.
Thanks, guys, for having me tonight. I'm always excited to talk about the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and, of course, the great sport of professional wrestling.
As far as 2017 goes, now you're busy with the inductions for this year. Can you elaborate a little bit more as far as the 2017 inductions go?
Oh, absolutely. May 18th, 19th, and 20th. If you're a wrestling fan, if you're anything to do with wrestling, then Wichita Falls should be on your calendar because that's the place to be. The induction class this year is star-studded from top to bottom, and if you don't know a name, you need to look it up and understand what great stars we're talking about. But the Pioneer Division, which is from the Civil War to 1942, is Yvonne Robert and Dirty Dick Raines. In the television era, which is from 43 to 84, is Luther Lindsay and Sputnik Monroe. The modern day era from 85 to modern day or present day is Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley. The women's division inductee this year is the legendary great Susan Tex Green. The international division is a dear friend of mine. Many bouts against each other. Great competition. The legendary dragon himself, Tatsumi Fujinami. Tag team division this year is Harley Race and Larry Henning, two real tough guys of the business. And in the colleague division, it's none other than the world-renowned photographer, George Napolitano. And there's 7 living Hall of Famers, and I'm not going to go into all the names tonight, but 5 living Hall of Famers are fixing to dawn Wichita Falls with their presence and excited about being there.
So Johnny, the Hall of Fame started, 15 years ago, 16 years ago in New York?
It started in 1999, and the first class was in 2002, so this will be our 16th class overall, and we're really proud of the work that this hall has done through the first 15 years and really excited for the next 15 years. So many great things are happening. Of course, the legendary Mr. and Mrs. Phillips from Texas Country Reporter came to the hall and graced us and did a great story on us. After just being open 6 months this year, we were named one of the top 17 places to go in the state of Texas in 2017. It's just been really wild and crazy and exciting and sometimes not much sleep kind of ride, because this Hall of Fame was open in 2015, the last day of November in New York. It was boxed and packaged the month of December in 2015, and in January 2016 it arrived in Wichita Falls, 30,000 pounds and 880 boxes. A wrestling ring from the 1890s also was in that load, and it could not have been done without Tony Villano and the crew of guys in New York that got this thing started and going. They put their heart and soul into it. It got down here to us about the 15th or 16th of January, and we had the museum open the last week of March, and we did our first induction, our 15th overall last May, and this year it's just going to be bigger and better. And just recently, we've made arrangements where the Wichita Falls ISD is going to start wrestling teams in the high schools there, which they've never had before, and those kids are going to come every day and train at the Hall of Fame on our 3rd floor, which will become a wrestling room. So I'm telling you, it's just going. Fred's been up and seen it and been involved with us from day one, and he can tell you as well as I can that.
I tell you, from a fan's perspective and growing up idolizing the business, you go in there, Danny, and there's ring attire and memorabilia from the Von Erichs or Skandar Akbar. Mick Foley donated his notepads, his legal pads, where he wrote his books. There's a Mankind mask and gear. There's all kinds of memorabilia from all of your favorite wrestlers. Ring-worn attire, boots. Like Johnny said, there's that 100-year-old wrestling ring. There's a old turnbuckle that was eaten by George the Animal Steele. I mean, there's so much stuff from people's childhood. Now, wrestling fans today may not know about all these names Johnny's mentioned, but they all need to know the history of the wrestling business and those that came before us and those who paved that way, because our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents used to go watch those names.
Yeah, definitely. You got to pay your homage.
Yeah, for sure. But Johnny's got some good stuff going on. It's a great day trip. It's family-friendly, and if you can catch, usually Johnny's up there 6 days a week. You can go up there. It's really cheap for a family to come in, and Johnny will actually give you a tour and tell you the story behind every artifact and item. So, Johnny, you got some information on it? How much is it to get in there, and what can families look forward to coming to Wichita Falls?
The tickets to the hall, we start at $3 a person, man. It's kids under 6 get in free, and senior citizens and any military veterans or military people get in for $2. And we wanted to make it where it was family-friendly, because wrestling has always been a family-oriented sport, and we wanted to make sure that, no matter what level you're at financially, that a $20 bill could get a family of 5 or 6 in the door and let them come in and see the history, because, as Fred said, it's hard to know where you're going unless you know where you've been, and this great sport of wrestling, and being an amateur guy like I was growing up on the mat, I have a great deal of respect just for that word wrestling. You only have to put the pro in front of it, and then you put that pro in front of it, and I started at the age of 18 and wrestled some of the legends in the sport. Then there's that much more integrity that goes with that word, and that's why this museum, the only brick-and-mortar Hall of Fame museum in the world just for professional wrestling, is gaining the strides that it's gaining right now. So we're really pumped about the future for this hall. We're so excited. Our corporate sponsors, Falls Distributing, who is the Budweiser distributor in town, American Hat, the knife guys now, every living inductee will get a custom-made knife with their name on it. It's just continues to grow. I tell Fred all the time that it's hard to really plan a lot right now, because every day somebody new walks in the door and has an idea or a plan or something to donate. And as this room keeps growing, we just signed a deal with Marco's Pizza, and next week at the Royal Rumble, every pizza that's sold that day in their 4 stores between Lawton and Wichita Falls, a percentage of that comes back to the Hall of Fame.
That's good.
It's a Royal Rumble Sunday, man. There's just so many pieces going on that it's that old saying, you can't believe it till you see it, and that's what you got to come do. You got to come see it.
One thing about this is WWE picks their stars for their Hall of Fame. They decide who goes in. With Johnny and them, they have a committee, and they send ballots out to all the living Hall of Famers, or they have people that actually vote these people in. And
so it's who rightly deserves it.
They are going to be the Cooperstown of professional wrestling.
Absolutely. It's done the right way, man. There's no other organization in the country that has a Hall of Fame that does it the way we do it. We have a committee, and that committee now will come every year to Wichita Falls in the month of September, and they'll spend 3 days in the hall in our booking office working up the ballot. And that ballot, they work that ballot up not only from their research, but from the stuff we get in all year to the hall from fans and family members saying, hey, this guy or my uncle or my grandfather who wrestled for 40 years, they're deserving of being on the Hall of Fame, and they send their bios and their stories, and so the committee has a tough job putting this ballot together. I mean, this year when they put the ballot together, and there's 5 names in every category, they said we could have put 10 names in every category without any trouble whatsoever. So there's some things that we have to look at from the board of directors standpoint to make sure that our ballot is getting done what we need to have get done. And we got to make sure that this year, for the very first time, every living Hall of Famer got a vote. We mailed out 45 ballots to living Hall of Famers. We got 35 of them back. That's better percentage than we get voting for a president of the United States, man.
Now, you can look up the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame online or on Facebook.
That was going to be my next question there.
They are on there, but they also do appearances. I mean, you've had Hillbilly Jim there, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff doing autograph signings. Actually, Johnny Mantell and them came out to our Terry Funk show in November and brought actual piece of China's ring-worn attire and put it on display and educated our fans about the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's a great day trip. It's just a few hours from Odessa, which I need to take you down there too.
Yeah,
check
definitely.
It out. It's really cool, but spring break's coming up, the summer's coming up. You're looking for something that's cheap and inexpensive for your families, and Johnny's got the spot with the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. So.
And anybody out there listening, you ought to look us up. pwhf.org is our website. We have a Facebook page that is very, very popular and very active. Or you can call the numbers 940-264-8123 and get us during our open hours 10 to 5 Tuesday through Saturday and 1 to 5 on Sunday. And let us know you're coming. And if you need help with accommodations for a hotel, if you want to know places to go eat, we've got partners up all the time at the hall. We can get you a great room rate at a nice hotel. We can send you someplace and get a discount on your meal. You can come and check out this town of Wichita Falls, and I guarantee you're going to say, wow, what a fantastic little town this is.
I'm sitting here completely marking out. I have learned so much in this 13-minute conversation that we've had. We have Cowboy Johnny Mantell on episode 2 of The Chair Shot with Danny G and, of course, Mr. Old School. Now, aside from being the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame president, Mr. Mantell, you've been involved in pro wrestling in the industry, in the business for years. Now, I know you have some great road stories for us, or at least one that really sticks out the most.
Well, there's so many stories from the road, so many great life experiences you get on the road. Some are sad, some are happy, some are funny. They just happen, and I really feel for the young guys of today because I don't know that they're ever going to get that experience that I really had in the business, because in the territory days, you drove 3,000 or 4,000 miles a week from town to town to town.
Yeah.
So you were constantly in a car traveling, sharing hotel rooms and doing all that. And Fred will tell you, in today's world, a lot of this new generation guys, they sort of travel by themselves and they sort of hang by themselves, and it's still a brotherhood within the business, but it's a little bit different today, the way modern technology in the world has taken us. So some of our road trips back in the day, hey, Fred Urban's introduction to professional wrestling was through Tom Jones, probably one of the nicest men you'd ever meet in this business. If somebody was saying something bad about Tom Jones, it was you needed to look at who was saying that, because there just wasn't anything bad said about Tom Jones. Fred will agree with that wholeheartedly, I know. And I'm just going to give you a little story about Tom. 1978, I had been going to school and wrestling on the side and going out in the summertime. My first 2 years in the business, my first match was in 76. In 1978, George Calkin and Frankie Kane, the great Mephisto, called me and wanted me to come to Mississippi. They had pulled away from Bill Watts and opened up an AWA territory. And Tom Jones was living there, and my brother Kenny said, you need to get your butt down there. Tom will take you to the gym 6 days a week and completely change your look. I was 18, almost 19 years old, a young punk kid, and I was athletic looking, but I wasn't built, and I wasn't lifting weights every day. I was a baseball player and just an athlete. So, I mean, I didn't look bad, but I didn't look muscled and all that. So, anyway, I go and move in with Tom Jones, and we go train 6 days a week and do body and core and stomach work at night. And he takes me from about 200 pounds to about 240. My bench goes from just right at 3 to 465. It just blows me up when I get to Mississippi. Now, Tom, being a single guy for most of his life, is he loves women. I'm just going to put it out there. Everybody knows that. I'm not going to say anything too tacky here, but he loves women like all us men do. And so Tom's deal on Sundays, because in Mississippi back in 1978, there was a thing called the Blue Law. I know a lot of people don't know what that is, but that means you can't sell tickets or you can't buy alcohol or you can't. There's a lot of things you can't do on Sunday because of the Blue Law. Well, one of them was running wrestling shows. So we were off every Sunday. So Tom said to me after I'd been there about 3 months, he said, now look, on Sundays, I need you to disappear for a little while. And I said, well, okay. So another dear friend of ours, Gene Lewis, who wrestled here in Dallas as a Mongol during the Von Erich days, or wrestled as Cousin Luke for Vince McMahon in WWE with Hillbilly Jim, he says, well, why don't we buy us a little boat and we'll go to the reservoir every Sunday and we'll get out of Tom's hair on Sundays. Well, I'm still not really understanding why I've got to get out of Tom's way on Sunday, because we're doing everything together, traveling together, working out together, eating together, everything we're doing together. Well, when we finally get the thing set up where Gene and I are gone at Sunday so Tom can have the day to himself there at the apartment, first time I come home on one of those Sundays, there's an apple pie, there's a peach cobbler, there's a thing of fried chicken, there's a thing of some kind of soup, there's some kind of casserole, there's a whole table and refrigerator full of food that somebody's brought to us there at that apartment. And I get in and I'm looking at everything, and I'm taking a little taste, and Tom says, what are you doing? I said, well, all this food, man, where'd this food come from? He said, well, I got a few friends that brings me that food on Sunday. And just sort of played it like that. So the following Sunday, Gene and I have already decided that we're going to say we're going out to the lake, but we're not going. We're going to sit around the apartment complex, the Scottish Inn, where we lived in Jackson, Mississippi, 1978. Shout out to that building still standing. And we decided we're going to see what's going on. So sure enough, I'm set to leave at 9 o'clock. I leave at 9 o'clock. Gene and I are sitting down at the end of the sort of long driveway, sort of watching. Well, about 9:45, young lady comes to the door, knocks on the door. She's carrying a big old casserole pan, and she goes inside. She's in there about 9:45, about 10:30, 10:45. She leaves. About 11:15, another woman comes, knocks on the door, has a tray of food in her hand, comes in, stays about an hour, hour and a half. She leaves. About 30 minutes after she's gone, here comes another one. Gene and I are sitting down there in the parking lot thinking, holy moly, our buddy Tom's got this action covered here today. That day alone, there was 5 different women came. All 5 of them brought food, and it was very good food, let me tell you. Now, what else was going on in that apartment, I'm not going to elaborate because I wasn't in it.
That was just one hell of a Sunday, we'll put it at that.
But that was his day off on Sunday, and we always got fed very well the next couple of days. So just a little story on our dear friend Tom. I know Fred loves that story of back in those days, because, again, in those days when you were over on TV, you were over every place you went, and they had such a strong TV in Mississippi that George ran, and Tom was one of the stars on the show. It was not hard for him to meet women.
For those of you who don't know who Tom Jones is, he wrestled pretty much from coast to coast and all over the world, but he was also Mr. Ebony under the mask, one of the first black wrestlers in the country to break the color barrier back during those times. But, he helped a lot of us.
Let me just give you a little trivia note right there. When he was Mr. Ebony, that mask that he wore was originated in California in 1980, because that was my mask I used as the hood in California in 1980. Tom used as Mr. Ebony when he went underneath the mask. That's a little really trivia.
Cool. Now, you just mentioned that a lot of the new generation will not get to experience what you guys experienced during your time. Now, my next question is, how does today's locker room differ from the locker room of your era?
Well, I think it depends on whose locker room you're in. I've been to independent locker rooms where everybody's sort of just out for themselves and for what they want. And I've been to old school locker rooms like you have in Odessa, where they're taught the right way to respect the business, and it's about getting the right things done. And so, you know, I can't speak for everybody. There's some great young people out there today wanting to be professional wrestlers. If I could do anything for them, I wish I could set up a system or be part of somebody setting up a system where these kids could get to wrestle 4, 5, 6, 7 nights a week and really hone their craft and get in the ring every night with somebody different and really learn how to do it. Because today, when you talk about independent wrestling, if you're not talking about Vince, who's running 4 or 5 nights a week, if you're just talking about the independent scene out there, a lot of these guys are only wrestling 4 to 8 times a month. Am I right, Fred?
Yeah,
I mean, most of them, that's all they get. And in my first 5 years in the business, I had 4 years where I wrestled 360 matches plus. And it's not just those matches. I mean, it's pretty hard not to learn something when you're doing it that much. But when you're also getting to work with experienced veterans every night, it increases that knowledge that you can gain. And that's what's slowing some of these kids down today and hurting them at the same time, is because they're not in the ring working enough with different people. Lots of times you'll see somebody, oh, yeah, I've been working 5 years, and he's had 75 matches. You know, I mean, it's just they're not getting enough time in the ring in front of a crowd with an experienced opponent. I say to the younger generation today all the time, if you're the smartest guy in the dressing room, you're in the wrong dressing room, because you have to have people around you that can help you and teach you.
That's
true. You can't learn this overnight. You can't learn this on video. You can't learn this in a book. You can't really hone it completely by training someplace, because lots of times, again, you're training with the same people in the ring over and over and over and over and over again. And when you're working with different people every night, everybody does an arm drag a little different. Everybody does a hip toss just a little bit different. And you've got to learn those timings and those quirks and ways to do it. So it's very challenging for the kids today, and I feel bad for them, because, again, there's some really good young men and women out there that want to learn and hone this craft and get to the top of the pinnacle, whatever that may be. Some people that I know that are great hands in the business today don't want to go work for WWE. Some of the people today, some of these good kids, that's exactly where they go. I don't condemn them either direction, because if you do go to work for Vince and WWE, you're going to sign your name over, and they're going to take over your life for a while. Now, that's great. That money you're going to make and all that's great, but some people don't want to give that part of their life up. I went to work for Vince in 1987 for 3 months, never signed a contract, and came home because the Johnny Mantell name was my name, and I wasn't going to give it up to somebody.
Well, that's just like Cody Rhodes. He's on the independent scene, and they won't allow him to use the Rhodes last name right now, so he's advertised as Cody wherever he goes until they come to an agreement. So we understand what you're saying about, you know, them taking possession of your name and your likeness and image itself.
Yeah, it's just tough, you know, and I just, I don't condemn kids either way. I do know, and I will say it, I say it all the time, Fred hears me say it all the time, that this Hall of Fame knows how the business is today, and we understand how the business has been since really the mid-'80s. It's been a couple companies trying to run and a bunch of independents growing and getting stronger all the time. And there's probably, in my day when I started in 1976, there was probably 10 or 12,000 wrestlers around the world making a living at professional wrestling. Today, I'm going to tell you there's probably, Fred, a couple hundred? If you take all the Legends contracts that Vince has, a couple hundred, 250 making a living at professional wrestling today.
Full time, yeah.
Full time. Everybody else that's working the independent scene has what they call a shoot job during the week where they're making their living because they're not wrestling enough to let that take over as their source of income. So we understand that as a set of board of directors and with this Hall of Fame. So we're hoping in the next few years to start a category where we will honor these independent stars of today, because all of a sudden now we're so many years down the road from when all the territories closed down in the mid-'80s. There's guys that started wrestling in the mid-'80s that are still wrestling today that never spent a minute on cable TV, but they're just as talented as anybody that Vince has. That's just a fact.
Johnny Mantell, we appreciate you for blessing us with your presence on episode 2 of The Chair Shot. Now, what's the website, once again, where people could go to get more information regarding the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
pwhf.org, where if you look at Trip Advisory and say what to do in Wichita Falls, we're going to be the first one that pops up. We're at 712 8th Street. We're in the iconic Big Blue Building. If you're coming in from any highway coming into Wichita Falls and you look downtown at the high-rises, you're going to see a big old blue building. That's where we're at, man. We're so easy to find. Come in and see what we got going on. And like Fred said, ask for me, and I'll be sure and walk you around and tell you a few stories and give you a little insight. And I'm just going to tell you tonight that I know for a fact being here in Wichita Falls in May is Larry Henning, Larry the Axe Henning, Susan Tex Green, George Napolitano, and I'm going to give you one really big name tonight, and that's Tatsumi Fujinami, the Dragon from Japan, is going to be in Wichita Falls in May to get his ring and his hat. And those are some big names coming. I'm not even touching on some of the guys that were there last year. Hall of Famer Paul Butcher Vachon, Hall of Famer J.J. Dillon, Hall of Famer Stan Hansen, Hall of Famer Terry Funk are just a few of the names that are scheduled to be back at Wichita Falls this year for the induction ceremony. So it's a huge weekend. Get on the Facebook, get on the website, or come to Wichita Falls and look for the Cowboy, and we'll get you to the Hall of Fame and get you all the information.
You're checking out episode 2 of The Chair Shot with Danny G and Mr. Old School. Now, Mr. Old School, we were scheduled to have Road Warrior Animal for episode 2, but there's been some family issues going on in his world, right?
Yeah, due to some circumstances beyond our control. Sadly, Road Warrior Animal's father isn't doing good health-wise, and we don't know the actual status of him, but we do want to send our thoughts and prayers and to the whole Laurinaitis family.
Definitely.
And he did say that he would reschedule with us, so hopefully we'll have him on within the next couple episodes for sure. Hopefully the next episode will have WWE superstar, former superstar Carlito and Animal together, so that ought to be pretty entertaining. So we're going to make it up to the fans for the false advertisement that we couldn't really control.
Yeah, definitely. Our prayers and best wishes are going out to Road Warrior Animal and, of course, the rest of his clan, the rest of his family. Now, Road Warrior Animal still scheduled to make an appearance out at the Odessa Jackalopes game, correct?
Yes, sir. January 28th, Road Warrior Animal will be at the Odessa Jackalopes game. OSW will be performing 2 or 3 matches beforehand. Road Warrior Animal will be there signing autographs. You can get a picture with him wearing the shoulder pads. Animal's also going to drop the puck to the game, and all that for $20. You can go to westtexastix.com or through the box office at the Coliseum to get that. But if you spend that $20 on that ticket, you also get a general admission ticket to OSW's show Wrestle Bowl 2017 that takes place the following weekend, February 4th, at the Ector County Coliseum and one of the buildings behind it. And that's where Carlito will be making his appearance. But I do want to commend and thank Kevin and all the staff at the Odessa Jackalopes, because they do work hard year-round to promote family events within the community, having different types of promotional nights and stuff to not only for the kids but for families. And as well as OSW, we all try to work together to provide family entertainment in the Basin to give people an option on a limited budget. So I do want to thank those guys for that.
We appreciate all the fans once again for checking out The Chair Shot with yours truly, Danny G and Mr. Old School on our Offshoots Network. You can also check us out on Podbean, Stitcher, Player FM, YouTube, Podbay, TuneIn, and of course, iTunes as well. For more information, hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/The Chair Shot, or you could email us at thechairshotpodcast@gmail.com. Want to thank our special guests on episode 2, Mr. Curt Stallion, and of course, the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame president, Cowboy Johnny Mantell. And we will catch y'all on episode 3. Catch y'all on episode 3. Catch y'all on